Hello all, this is the Owl, and at last, it's bloody ready. Chainsaw Man. Maybe you've heard of it. I mean, I'm sure some people haven't. And if that's you, then welcome to 2022. I certainly hope your time on the moon was productive. Seriously, this thing has become a full-on sensation, and is now officially more popular than sexy anime girls, sliced bread, and quite possibly sexy anime bread, winning oodles of awards, and racking up sales that would make Demon Slayer blush, both at home and abroad. And with the anime coming out soon, I thought that it was high time that we took a look at this damn thing. Thus, for the month of October, yeah, that was the best I could do. You try coming up with chainsaw puns, damn it. We'll be taking a deep, analytical look at this cultural phenomenon and trying to decipher exactly why this weird drug trip of a story has resonated with so many people. I mean, I don't think it's the art, which is emphatically fine. It's not the overarching plot, which feels like what you'd get if you put every popular modern-day shonen into an AI and then let it write one of those AI comics, sort of like Black Clover and fantasy shonen. What I'm saying is, there's something more here. Now, before we start, a few things. Chainsaw Man is a Shueisha manga, which is why I've been holding off doing it, as these fine folks aren't the most bloody friendly to content creators like myself. Thus, I'm going to be leaning quite hard into the analysis side of things here, and I'll also be using a fan coloration of the Viz release for the same reason, and also because it's a really bloody good coloration that also helpfully turns a lot of the gore into fun neon colors for me, which saves me some editing work. Secondly, as with my Made in Abyss and Corpse Party deep dives, I'm not going to be going through every single plot element, every single scene or character. If you are interested in reading this, do yourself a favor and check it out for yourself. The Viz translation is actually surprisingly good this time around. Lastly, while I have read this one before, it was quite a while ago, and my memories are fuzzy at best. So, as with previous manga, we'll be going through this organically. I'll basically be experiencing it fresh along with you, which means that I'll probably get a few things wrong along the way. I'm sure whoever is going to be our Chainsaw Man equivalent of Pooty Spaghetti will let me know in the comments. With that out of the way, let's get cracking. The story of how Chainsaw Man came to be is a bit of a mystery, mostly coming down to its author, Tatsuki Fujimoto, who, let's just say, is a character. Much like Akihito Tsukushi, he really does seem to enjoy screwing with people, so it's a bit difficult to really get a bead on the chap. But from my understanding, he's always had a knack for drawing, and after a pretty damn prestigious debut in the world of manga, he managed to attract the attention of ONE and frigging Sui Ishida. Yeah, that Sui Ishida. And yes, there is certainly a goodly amount of One Punch Man and Tokyo Ghoul's DNA in this manga, which, if I was feeling funny, would probably be called One Bleach Tokyo Gantz DxD. Fujimoto has also gone on record as being a big fan of Western superhero movies, as well as horror films, which, yeah, I can sort of see it. Fujimoto's first long-form manga, Fire Punch, is not one I'm familiar with, but it ran for 8 volumes, so I might take a look at it eventually. However, it wasn't until Chainsaw Man that he was catapulted into stardom, surprisingly in Shonen Jump. And that is probably the single weirdest thing about this manga when you come down to brass tacks, because shonen is typically the PG-13 genre, whilst Chainsaw Man is emphatically not that. It's explosively gory, crass, dark, and frequently horny as all hell. But see, I think people have a tendency to misinterpret the whole shonen thing. It doesn't work quite the same way as folks seem to think it does. It's not an age rating. Shonen and seinen refer mostly to the target demographic, as well as where something is published, rather than necessarily its content, although one does generally inform the other. Remember, Gantz was originally a shonen too, and at the time, Gantz was probably the only big manga to be both boobier and gorier than Berserk. Yeah, shonen content limitations are a bit more formalized now than they were back then, but it's still nowhere near as firm as it is in the West. So, yeah, what is it about this story that has grabbed audiences by the undercarriage and pulled? Is this just a case of when more meets a very weird concept? Is it a case of the memes? Or is there some X factor to this yarn? Let's see if we can't figure it out together. And brace yourselves, folks, because let's just say things are about to get wild. Our story opens on our main character, Denji, and his pet. What do I even call that? A dog saw? Anyway, this canine abomination is called Pochita, with Pochi basically being the Japanese equivalent of Fido. Denji is in a bad way. He owes a lot of money to some very bad people, and he's even resorted to selling off his organs, currently alongside Pochita, who he wields as... Seriously, how can I not love this manga after this panel? I swear, this shit is bananas. How much did you drink? Answer me, manga. I do cocaine! Yeah, that checks out. It turns out that Denji's father racked up a huge debt with the Yakuza, and these gangsters are basically using him as an indentured servant to kill devils and obtain their carcasses for them, whilst making sure that they never pay him enough to pay down his debt, leaving him barely enough money to survive. Now, this is worth talking about, as this sort of thing is a huge problem in Japan. Whilst people regard Japan as a very safe place due to its low rates of violence and street crime, it does have a huge problem with usury, predatory lending, deliberately inescapable debts, and extortion of family members to repay debts incurred by someone else. Yeah, the Yakuza thing here and the death threats are mostly for dramatic effect, but with the ridiculous lengths these debt collectors will resort to in Japan, many of which would be straight up illegal in the modern West, it's not too far from the truth. I am not kidding when I say that outright burglary, intimidation, and even stuff not too far off indentured servitude are not uncommon. And once you're under this debt, you are never coming out. Back at his meager shack, Denji and Pochita ruminate on how much their lives suck, as he can't even afford jam to go on his daily slice of bread, let alone attempt to date anyone, despite him starting to reach, that age. And yeah, this immediately sets up Denji as a really sympathetic character, one that both Western audiences and Japanese audiences can find sympathetic and identifiable. In a brief flashback, we observe that he was about to top himself when he met an injured Pochita, who became his companion after Denji nursed him back to health. I think Pochita's a boy, by giving him blood and forming a contract with him. And yeah, see what I mean by colorization adding a ton to this? I mean, this is what it looks like in the original Viz release. Not bad, but not amazing. On the other hand, damn, that's good. It actually reminds me quite a lot of Norm Brayfogel's work from some of the older Batman stuff. It just drips with atmosphere. And, you two are actually really cute. Anyway, Denji gets picked up for his next job and driven to a ruined building, where he is promptly betrayed for no apparent reason by the Yakuza, who have made their own contract with that thing. Yeah, it looks like something Will Simpson would draw, and it's called the Zombie Devil. I wonder why. Denji ends up getting dismembered, and as he dies, he experiences what I think is a psychic vision of Pochita, and offers the dog saw his body so that it can keep living. However, Pochita flips this on him and offers Denji his power in order that Denji can achieve his own dreams. He awakens, fully healed, but now with a pull start on his chest, and Pochita gone. The zombies move into attack, but Denji pulls the cord and turns into... the most metal thing I have ever seen. Seriously, this is so metal that it once ate a dolphin on a dare. This is so metal that even Nathan Explosion would give it a nod. This is so metal that the only way it could be more metal is if it were bathed in goat's blood and set on fire. I mean, it has a damn chainsaw for a head. How can I not love that? And thus, Chainsaw Man is born and obliterates the zombie devil in an instant before rampaging through the Yakuza zombies. Okay, yeah, I'm starting to see why this was such a hit. But that said, it is interesting how many tropes this is taking off. What do I mean by tropes? Well... okay, as I mentioned before, if someone were to describe the basic premise of Chainsaw Man to you, it would probably sound like pretty much the aggregate of every single modern pseudo-isekai shonen. I mean, where do we even start? You've got the truck-kun trope. Yes, not truck-san as I said in my last video, don't worry about it. Where the pure-hearted but down-on-his-luck protagonist dies horribly at the start of the story. Then you've got the trope of him fusing with or being infected by and gaining the powers of whatever big threat we're facing. In this case, yeah, a devil. And this is only the start of the tropiness of this manga. And yet, as you'll see moving forwards, the trope definitely draws inspiration from Sui Ishida's magnum opus, with the trope of the predatory species living within society and feeding upon humans, with people imbued with the powers of that species helping to fight them. But Denji is kind of the anti-Ken Kaneki. He's not a shy, retiring good boy. Denji is loud, angry, and something of a hooligan, but the manga somehow manages to make him not be testicle-gratingly annoying, as this sort of loud character often is. He's actually really fun and likable, and that's one of the things, in my opinion, that has allowed Chainsaw Man to become such a smash hit. At first glance, It's a house built entirely out of familiar shonen tropes, but it somehow manages to overcome, subvert, and in many cases, even straight up invert these tropes. You'll see what I mean as we go, but let's get back to the story. We see the aftermath of Denji's rampage as a trio of suited figures approach. One, a woman with peach-colored hair, remarks that he doesn't smell like a human or a devil. And yeah, meet Makima. Woof. This character is a trip, as you'll learn soon. But I'll throw you a bone and say take note of stuff she says and does, even at this point, because her character arc is a little rough. Okay, I'll stop now. I've used most of my good ones. Denji asks her to hold him, which she does. This is actually sort of sweet, when you recall that one of Denji's biggest regrets was never being able to experience intimacy with a woman. And this, I think, causes him to revert to being human. Makima makes Denji an offer. Technically, they are supposed to kill devils, but as he's something unusual enough to warrant special treatment, she offers to let him, be her pet? Okay then. When she tells him that he'll be fed, he immediately agrees. Yeah, I think this is another aspect of the story that really grabbed audiences. Having a hard-knock life main character down on his luck at the start of the story is a trope as old as storytelling, but they aren't usually this far down on their luck, where even having the bare necessities is a luxurious sufficiency. It's weirdly humbling though, and it only serves to make him more sympathetic. Sometime later, we see that Denji already believes himself to be firmly in love with Makima, as she's the first woman to ever show him kindness. Although, dude, the second a woman defines your relationship with her as you being her pet, that's probably a relationship to be wary of. Unless you're into that sort of thing, watch out. Especially as we see that she immediately sends him off to kill a devil while she eats, and when he is hesitant as he's hungry, she scorns him and also threatens to kill him. Yeah, red flags, dude. All the red flags. The devil he's been sent to kill has apparently abducted a young girl, but when he finds them, he sees... What can I even say about that? I will try and resist making all kinds of jokes about girls and one-eyed wiggling Welshmen, but you can probably guess what they would be. He's surprised when she vouches for the devil and attempts to stop him from killing what seems to be her pet, causing him to hesitate, but quickly reveals that it's the muscle devil, this stupid-looking thing with, you guessed it, the ability to control muscles, which it immediately uses to crush Denji's arm. That said, this ends exactly how you'd expect it to. Damn it, that's cool. But shortly after, we learn the big weakness of the Chainsaw Man transformation. Having blades rip through his flesh causes Denji to rapidly exsanguinate and weaken. He does, however, manage to get Makima to feed him udon, which, yeah, I miss curry udon. I swear, there was this place down the coast that did kare udon with mochi, and I wanted to replace my blood with that stuff. What am I on about? Oh yeah, this relationship is really unwholesome, even at this point, as she proceeds to flirt with him further, cementing her hold over him. And we head over to the Devil Hunter headquarters in Tokyo, kicking off the first real arc of the manga. we rejoin Denji as he begins to tour the Tokyo Public Devil Hunter headquarters. Yep, suits and everything. And we're introduced to, oh yay, it's that character. What do I mean by that character? Well, let's take a look. See if you recognize him. He's tall, handsome, and intensely Japanese, providing a contrast to the disheveled, more Western, Yankee look of the protagonist. His demeanor is haughty, and his body language screams, "Don't come near me, I'm better than you." But the bags under the eyes and the generally haunted expression suggest that there's damage and tragedy under the surface. Yes, I could be describing the rival character from several dozen different anime, but as this manga's theme seems to be, we're going to go down the list of tropes and play bingo with them, and we're still going to kick all the ass, let's see what happens. Anywho, this tall piece of slash fiction bait is Aki Hayakawa, and he'll be Denji's squad leader. Let me guess, they'll start out as enemies and grudgingly come to respect each other before becoming firm friends. Yup, sure enough, his first act is to beat the stuffing out of Denji and tell him to bugger off. We're doing this thing. The all my former comrades have died, so I am going to scare you off for your own good, but at the end of the day, it's to stop me from getting hurt thing. However, okay, that's awesome. Denji kind of subverts this trope by kicking Aki square in the nadges from behind, and tells Aki that, yeah, his reasons might seem shallow to others, but he's willing to put his life on the line for them, so shut the hell up. And okay, yeah, I am starting to see why folks like this manga. And okay, Denji tells Makima that Aki was attacked by a testicle devil, and I am literally crying right now. Well done, manga. You're drugs, but pretty damn funny. After a bit more exposition, we learn that they will be part of an experimental team of devil hunters, and that if Denji ever attempts to leave or disobeys orders, he's gonna be executed. Denji, as he's not an idiot, is understandably a bit worried about this, and in another series of pretty damn good panels that really demonstrate how much this colorization adds. I mean, look at that, I could just fall into this scene. Asks Aki if Makima is a bad person, but Aki brushes him off and says that she saved him, but if Denji has any doubts, he should probably abandon all intentions of romance there. She's a tricky one, and I must say, we're not even done with the first volume, and I'm having fun. Alright manga, let's see where you're going with this. We rejoin the duo on their first mission. Apparently there's a fiend upstairs in a nearby building. As we're still in the fish out of water phase of the story, which yeah, tropety trope, is a commonly used way to introduce the reader to the new world in which the story will be taking place, via a protagonist that has no bloody idea what's going on. But we learn that a fiend is what happens when a devil possesses someone's corpse, and Denji asks if he's a fiend. Fair question, but Aki tells him that no, he's not. Fiends have differently shaped heads, okay, and as we learn later, this generally involves some minor physical characteristic from whatever devil possessed them. It's usually horns. They head upstairs and holy crap, that's terrifying. An old dude with centipede mandibles instead of a face is eating his pet bird in the room. Aki wants to see the Chainsaw Man transformation, but Denji just lops the bastard's head off with a hatchet. Aki, annoyed, asks him why he didn't shapeshift, but Denji reveals that death by chainsaw is understandably a pretty bad way to go, and as they weren't being attacked, he didn't want to inflict unnecessary suffering, which pisses Aki right the hell off. Check another trope off the list. His family was killed by a devil, and if that devil so happens to be the chainsaw devil, I'm gonna break something. Denji in turn reveals that, as he doesn't actually have any friends, he's not willing to rule anyone out, even if that person so happens to be a fiend or a devil. Again, that's some good characterization, and a nice subversion of tropes. Usually we get to the whole moping and doping and are these really monsters or can I be friends with them phase. But nope, we skip right on to, well, I'm not gonna rule out friends. Yeah, he's a likable character who doesn't act like an alien. And even better, we get to see that part of it was Denji actually just covering up his true intentions, as he didn't want to damage the fiend's extensive stash of spank mags. He reflects for a bit, realizing that, in a sense, he's already achieved his stated goals. He is now well fed, has a pretty woman being friendly to him, and has a roof over his head. But he realizes that his new companions have much bigger and more important goals than that. Has he been underambitious? Maybe he needs a more noble goal. Yeah, okay, I like this guy. Later, we see Aki, Makima, and Denji speaking together, and she reveals that he'll be getting a proper partner, who is actually a fiend. Meet Power. She has boobs, so Denji of course decides to be friends with her. The two begin to patrol together, and we get a bit of her character. She's even more of a punk than Denji. Loud, brash, braggadocious, aggressive, crude, and yeah, she's a pretty fun character. However, there don't seem to be any devils around, which she brags about and claims is because they're scared of her. But soon enough, she scents one and dashes off eagerly, revealing that she has one of my favorite power sets, Blood Control, which she uses to smash a minor devil like this was Looney Tunes or something. I have to wonder if she's a reference to Harley Quinn. And yeah, this is what I mean. Chainsaw Man does still have its share of angst, but unlike something like Tokyo Ghoul, the characters do a minimal amount of moping around. Most of the time, they're evidently having a ton of fun being awesome, and that sort of enjoyment is really contagious. While most shonen characters would still be in the should I, shouldn't I phase, these people have already done it and are busy showering it off. But something occurs to me in regards to Power, and I have to wonder if she's a reference to the Japanese phenomenon of the so-called carnivore girl. This is a fascinating cultural response to the phenomenon of herbivore men, which you might have heard of. Basically, a lot of young Japanese men decided to go down a sort of pseudo-MGTOW route, opting out of the rat race, the dating scene, and marriage entirely, earning just enough to get by doing whatever they want, and then spending most of their time doing their own thing, generally playing video games. This corresponded with a counter-movement within a minor subset of young, generally urban Japanese women who moved away from the traditionally submissive role and embraced making the first move, often creeping up on promiscuity, fast living, hypergamy, expensive tastes, and provocative fashions. Dyed hair, expensive brand name clothing, weird contact lenses, and a taste for booze and meat. It's a thing, especially in the cities, and is colloquially referred to as carnivore girls. Anyway, we learn that Power doesn't really get along with anyone especially well, and only her cat seemed to tolerate her. But a devil took said cat, and she was in the process of getting it back when Makima roped her into this special unit. Denji isn't especially sympathetic, but when she smartly offers him a trip to second base if he's able to save her cat, which... Okay, looks like we have our next quest, get cat, touch boobs. But before that, let's take a little break.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Meanwhile, in another very Tokyo Ghoul-esque scene, Makima is getting grilled by her bosses, who are worried not only about the rise of devils within Japan, but the proliferation in other countries, some of which are busy weaponizing them. Oh yay! We now have the secret government organization of dubious morality thing. Let's see where this goes, I guess. After some discussion, they warn Makima that her experimental subordinates are basically dogs for her to train, and that she shouldn't get attached. There really is an odd running theme of pet dog here, isn't there? We also get a bit more world building, explaining probably the #1 thing about this pretty damn great manga that doesn't make sense to me right now. See, devils are born with a name, and depending on how much fear is attached to that name, or the concept it represents, I guess, the stronger the devil becomes. Now, okay, chainsaw devil. I get that. Chainsaw is a menacing word. If you hear the word chainsaw, it immediately conjures up images of horror movies and industrial accidents. I can see why the chainsaw devil would be quite strong. What I don't understand is how the muscle devil or tomato devil came to be. Maybe they're just really weak, but who the hell is scared of tomatoes? I really bloody hate tomatoes, but I'm not exactly scared of them. It's like having a seafood devil. Oh wait. We'll see if this gets explained later on. Anyway, we cut over to Denji and Power as they approach the house where the devil that took her cat hostage lives. And yeah, I am going to try to not gush over the colorization here, but holy crap, that's good. However, before too long, Power tips her hand. Yup, it's a double cross. There's a brief scuffle between the two, but Power easily overpowers Denji with her blood weapons and knocks him out cold. Well, this dude needed a bonk. We see that she's actually working for the injured Bat Devil, but oh crikey Moses, that's haunting. And after a brief discussion, the Bat Devil proceeds to crush Denji and drink his blood, restoring his missing arm. Power set Denji up for this because the Bat Devil took her cat hostage, forcing her to bring him a victim. And as you'd expect, she is promptly betrayed in turn, as the devil eats said cat and then swallows her whole before flying off in search of more victims. Aren't bats nocturnal? Whatever, that's still awesome as all hell. I have to wonder if his design isn't a reference to Nosferatu Zod from Berserk. As the devil flies away, we see that a still somehow living Denji is clinging onto it for dear life, demanding that it give back his boobs. That's just great. and the Bat Devil attempts to crush Denji, but this in turn prompts him to transform, and yeah, it's on like Donkey Kong, bringing Volume 1 to a close. Volume 2 opens with a transformed Denji taking it right to the Bat Devil in the skies above Tokyo, in a fight that really calls back to the second boss of Gantz, especially this bit here, as they plummet back down to Earth, smashing into a... hang on, let's get Mrs. Owl to check these kanji for me. Oh, it's a car insurance company, apparently. Both of them are pretty banged up, but the Bat Devil seems to have gotten the worst of it, and it is, once again, missing an arm. They are also interrupted by an office worker who Denji tells to get the hell out of there. This confuses the Bat, as he asks what the hell sort of devil lets prey go, and what exactly Denji wants. He responds with, yeah, blood and tits. You and I are going to be friends. The Bat Devil decides to test out the limits of his abilities as the fight moves to the streets outside and hocks a car at him, driver included. Denji realizes that he can retract his blades and catches the car before lobbing it right back at the Bat Devil, revealing that while he's not going to kill wantonly, he doesn't really care all that much about the average jackoff. And yeah, this fight kicks every inch of the ass. The Bat Devil transforms into the salt vampire from Star Trek, what? And blasts Denji with a concentrated bolt of sonic energy, knocking him clear through several buildings. But a battered Denji pops right back up again and reveals that his hard knock life has toughened him up, and, well, boobs, before going through the devil like a buzzsaw. Sweet as. And thank you colorization for making the blood neon. Some of these fights would have been a nuisance to censor. We see that Power and Meowie are still alive in the devil's stomach somehow, despite being on the verge of death. As she fades, something happens, and Power opens her eyes to a very Kentaro Miura-esque scene. Denji has eviscerated the Bat Devil, and both her and the cat are alive, albeit drenched in gore and viscera. She asks him why exactly he saved her after she betrayed him. And yeah, this. I'm so glad we have a protagonist with clearly defined and relatable goals, as Power apologizes and agrees. How can I not love this? With his foe slain, and the promise of boobs in his future, Denji raises his arm and cheers, but what the hell? Something severs it. It's what the hell is that? This chunk of nightmare fuel is YouTube going to be fussy about droopy Geiger nipples? I guess we're about to find out. Just when I thought I'd seen my last monster titty. Thanks, Fujimoto, you bastard. Denji attempts to transform, but finds that he can't do it fully as he's lost too much blood. So yeah, that's another weakness of the transformation. It can't be sustained for long, and once it's done, it can't be reactivated until he heals, due to the extreme damage it inflicts on his body. A bit like the Berserker armor from Berserk. However, because he's a good bloke, to protect Power and her kittykins, he still squares off against the new foe, which we later learn is called the Leech Devil. Because yes, there are more people in the world that are phobic about leeches than frigging bats. Yeah, I know, it's not that kind of manga, but whatever. While he struggles valiantly, he doesn't have the strength left to put up much of a fight, and is able to inflict only superficial damage on the monster while it beats the ever-loving crap out of him. Regardless, he gives it his best shot, but is eventually defeated as the Leech Devil's tongue impales him. Yeah, I'm sure the story just killed off the protagonist and the namesake of the series right at the end of the first arc, and nobody is gonna pop up and save him at the last minute with some sort of overpowered ability. Tick, tick. There we go. Just as he's about to be eaten, we see someone watching over the battle make a fox out of his hand. It's Aki, and okay, let's see what the rival character can do. Aki says kon, which, holy crap, a gigantic, very Naruto-esque fox head appears and noms the devil down. Oh, a fun aside, kon is one of the onomatopoeia for the sound a fox makes. Yeah, that's certainly a bizarre ability, and believe it or not, the explanation for how it works isn't any less bizarre. Yeah, Aki's got quite the power set, but we won't learn about it until a fair bit later in the story. The mortally wounded Denji looks on as 4 suited figures emerge. Yeah, that's the devil hunting squad coming to his rescue, but we won't get to know them very well until the next arc. Regardless, the battle is over, but Denji is ultra pissed as he lost. Yeah, we're sort of doing that thing, where we establish that the protagonist has a cool ability, but right now, he's sort of low in the power rankings. I'm extremely curious to see just how ridiculously strong he's going to be by the end of the story. I'm a sucker for power creep. So finally we are done with the first little arc. Next time is where things really start kicking it into overdrive. But let's call it here for today. Much like Corpse Party, Chainsaw Man doesn't really have convenient jumping on or jumping off points, so we're going to be going arc by arc. And yeah, that's Chainsaw Man. Thus far, actually pretty damn good. While it does consist primarily of tropes and stuff you've seen a million times, its funky punk vibe and clever inversion of genre tropes really does make it feel like something fresh. It actually reminds me quite a lot of One Punch Man in that, while it's not afraid to go dark, and oh boy does this get dark later, it's still hellishly fun to read, because the characters all seem to be having a ton of fun doing awesome, insane things. And Denji is, even at this point in the story, probably shaping up to be one of my absolute favorite manga protagonists. And beyond this, the side characters are all pretty nuanced and the gore is suitably ridiculous. But there's something a bit deeper here, representing a gradual shift within manga and anime, and within a lot of Western media too. See, for a long time, superpowered individuals inevitably had a ton of angst, even when they had ridiculous abilities and could do a lot of kick-ass stuff. We would instead have to pay an entrance fee in terms of spending a ton of time watching them grappling with responsibility and angst and restraining themselves. However, over the past few years, we've seen a shift towards more dopamine-tastic power fantasies. I think that Marvel has had a lot to do with this, thanks to the quippy, more light-hearted mood and flow of their battery of superhero movies. And similarly, manga and anime have started leaning more in this direction too, particularly within the isekai genre. but now also within more mainstream shonen and shonen-like stories. While I know not everyone is a huge fan of this style, I really dig it. There's something just highly enjoyable and cathartic about watching someone capable of doing insane shit, just having fun being awesome. It's one of the reasons why I enjoy manga, like that time I was reincarnated as a slime and solo leveling so damn much. Chainsaw Man really does capture this feeling, whilst also not being afraid to go full grimdark and reflective at times. The best of both worlds in essence. And without giving too much away, as you'll see, Fujimoto, if anything, gets even better at straddling this line as the story moves forwards. Again, I would strongly recommend picking this one up for yourself and giving it a read, because, well, it's a bloody good manga, and I really want to support the author so that it continues for a good long time. What happens next? Who the bloody hell are all these new characters? And when is the main story going to start proper? Just how dark are we going to go here? For all this and more, you'll have to wait until next time. Until then, that's me for the day. Thanks for watching. I want to give a massive shout out to Asterix Gaming, Rage Against My Hairline, Cheerful Satanist, Bourrier, Robert Dote, Rafferty, XTC Pill, and Crazy, my fantastic patrons. If you enjoyed this, why not stick around? There's plenty more like this and a lot more coming down the pipe. October and November are going to be interesting months, let me say that already. If you want to give feedback, shoot the shit, or just talk or joke about fun, nerdy, or weeby stuff, why not drop by our Discord? Otherwise, take care my friends, and cheers. I'll see you all next time. This is the Owl, signing off.